Yama, I'm Jack Evans and you're watching BTN. Here's what's coming up. We find out what you think about the YouTube ban for under 16s. Mark 80 years since the bombing of Hiroshima and learn about the rise of AI companions. But first today to Gaza. Recently, world leaders called on Israel to let more aid into the region after reports that a lot of people, including kids, are going hungry. Here's Ren with more.
Last week, black parachutes could be seen falling from the sky in Gaza. Attached to each was a package of canned food, baby formula and other essentials.
What we got was canned chickpeas and a packet of salt.
A litre of oil, that's what I got.
We've delivered in the last couple of days 33 trucks of life-saving infant formula, high-energy biscuits and hygiene kits. But this is still a fraction of what's needed.
Around 2 million people live here in Gaza. It's a 365 square kilometre strip of land between Israel, Egypt and the Mediterranean Sea. Even before the war, a lot of food had to be brought in. Now, almost all of Gaza's farmland is unusable, which means deliveries like these are pretty much the only source of food. In March, Israel, which controls the crossings into Gaza, stopped all of these deliveries from entering the region. Israel's leaders wanted to put pressure on Hamas, the terrorist group which controls Gaza, to release the hostages it took when it attacked Israel on October 7th, 2023. In May, it started letting supplies in again. But the UN says not enough is getting to the people who need it.
I've been part of these aid distributions myself, so I know exactly how they work.
Tess works for UNICEF and says delivering aid is a really complicated process, especially in an active war zone like Gaza.
Because of the damage to the roads and the lack of telecommunications infrastructure, but also because people in Gaza have lived through almost 2 years of war and they're desperate for supplies because not enough has been allowed into the Gaza Strip. And so people try and take the supplies from the trucks as we drive through.
If too many desperate people are trying to get food at the same time, things can get dangerous. And that's what's been happening in Gaza recently. The UN says more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed while trying to get aid since late May. And many more are going hungry.
We know that they haven't been able to access essential aid for weeks, and they haven't been able to access the food and the water that they need. So what we're actually seeing, unfortunately, is the worst case scenario, which is children are dying of starvation.
Since yesterday afternoon till now, I haven't eaten anything.
Every day we only eat lentils. There's no flour, no food, no drink. We are dying of hunger.
Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, says Israel isn't responsible for the situation in Gaza.
Israel is presented as though we are applying a campaign of starvation in Gaza. What a bold-faced lie. There is no policy of starvation in Gaza, and there is no starvation in Gaza.
He has blamed Hamas for stealing aid and the UN for not distributing it well enough. While the UN says Israel isn't making it easy for them to get enough aid where it needs to go. A lot of people around the world are angry, including some world leaders.
It's a humanitarian crisis. Right. It's an absolute catastrophe. Do you think nobody wants to see that?
Quite clearly, it is a breach of international law to stop food being delivered, which was a decision that Israel made in March.
Israel says it is taking steps to let in more aid, including pausing fighting for part of the day in some areas and announcing protected routes for aid deliveries.
We do see a shift and we welcome that, but we know that even with this change, what that's going to allow is just a trickle of what we need.
What many are hoping for is a permanent end to the fighting.
I wish I could live like normal children, wake up and go to school, not fetch water. not go to the soup kitchen and get food, but come back from school and just play.
If you're feeling worried or upset about that story or anything else you've seen in the news, make sure you talk to someone about it. You can call Kids Helpline on 1800 55 1800. And you can also check out our website, where we've got some resources with tips on how to deal with upsetting news. There were protests in support of Palestine around Australia on the weekend. Where did this march take place? It's the Sydney Harbour Bridge. An estimated 100,000 people took part in the march across the bridge, far more than organisers expected. Police stopped the march at one point because they were worried about a crowd crush, but the event ended safely. How big was the earthquake that happened off the coast of Russia last week? Was it magnitude 6.6, 8.8, or 9.1? It was magnitude 8.8, making it one of the biggest ever recorded. It set off tsunami warnings across the Pacific, but while there were a few sizable waves, there were no deaths and minimal damage. What did this Australian-made rocket carry into space? A jar of Vegemite? A satellite? Or nothing?
It's gone!
Yeah, it didn't take anything to space because it crashed.
No!
The Gilmore Space Technologies rocket was actually carrying a jar of Vegemite, but unfortunately the launch didn't go to plan.
I thought it was going to take off.
Still, they say it's all a learning experience. Last week, the Australian government announced that YouTube will be added to its social media ban for kids under 16. It was going to exempt the video sharing site, but now it's changed its mind. Let's find out why and what some young people think about it.
Some of the things that I like to watch on YouTube would definitely be like gaming, like definitely Minecraft.
This is the stuff.
I like the Liverpool in Hong Kong, where they're like showing like their training sessions.
I like watching like what happens on the news, and I like watching some Dhar Man.
These are so easy.
Whether you need help with your hobbies,
if you don't know how to do your makeup, don't worry, class is in session.
Help with your homework,
figuring out the anatomy of a frog's ear,
or just some chill out time with your favorite star. YouTube has a lot to offer, and a lot of young people use it. A lot.
I would go on YouTube like 3 to 4 hours.
I spend about 15, 20, 25 minutes on YouTube a day.
Stats show 76% of kids aged 10 to 15 use YouTube, making it the most popular online platform for that age group. Which is why it was big news when this happened.
Following advice from the E-Safety Commissioner, young people under the age of 16 will not be able to have accounts on YouTube.
When the social media ban comes into effect in December, YouTube will be on the list of platforms kids aren't allowed to use. At first, YouTube wasn't going to be part of the ban, but the government changed its mind. The E-Safety Commission says a lot of YouTube's features are designed to keep kids watching videos without taking any breaks, which isn't good for you.
Fresh evidence from the E-Safety Commissioner that 37% of kids had their most recent or most impactful online harm at the hands of YouTube.
One time when I was scrolling through YouTube Shorts, something came up and there was a lot of swearing in it.
Google, which owns YouTube, isn't impressed with the government's decision. It says YouTube is a video sharing platform, not a social media site, so it shouldn't be included in the ban. Plus, YouTube fans reckon there's a lot of really good stuff on there, like educational content, videos made by young people, and of course, BTN.
When it's conversations involving young people, when it's laws involving young people need to be at the heart of the conversation.
That's Leo. He created his own news channel when he was just 11 years old.
Hello, I'm Leonard Puglisi with this special edition of HMB Local News.
He reckons banning YouTube isn't the best way to protect kids. And instead, we should be teaching them the skills they need to stay safe online.
We need to recognise that teenagers are going to be online. So if you have regular lessons with a bunch of topics, including, of course, ways to report this content, ways to keep safe online, how to do that, and that's constant in the classroom, in primary school and in high school, I think that'll be another big help.
Under the new rules, you'll still be able to watch YouTube videos, but you just won't be able to make your own account. YouTube Kids will also be exempt from the ban. When it happens, Australia will become the first country to ban the world's most popular video sharing site. So, what do you guys think?
I don't think it should be banned because kids could miss out on important information.
I think there should be some restrictions, but not a complete ban.
I feel like they should make a second app like YouTube Kids, but call it, say, YouTube Teens. So things that we would find interesting, not adults would find interesting.
I don't think it should be banned, it should just stay the way it is.
What was the first video ever uploaded to YouTube called? Charlie Bit My Finger, Me at the Zoo, or My Snowboarding Skills? It's Me at the Zoo, and it features one of YouTube's founders at the San Diego Zoo.
Hi, BTN! We're watching you from remote office.
This week, people around the world will be marking 80 years since a huge event in history. On the 6th of August, a nuclear weapon was dropped on the city of Hiroshima in Japan, killing more than 100,000 people. Let's find out more about what happened and how it changed the world.
Tokyo, Osaka, Aichi.
For the past 5 years, Shun has been leading tourists through Hiroshima's Peace Memorial Park, educating people about what happened here 80 years ago.
I want them to come to Hiroshima and know about what happened at Hiroshima at August 6th, because not all Japanese people don't know when and what happened at Hiroshima.
Shun's great-grandmother was here when a nuclear weapon was dropped on a human population for the first time.
My mother was helping with the chores at home. She was barely in the 7th or 8th grade. When the atomic bomb dropped, they didn't realise it was an atomic bomb, but their house collapsed and she got buried under debris. She was not burned, but she was affected by the radiation.
The bombing of Hiroshima happened in 1945. The Second World War had been going on for nearly 6 years. In May, Nazi Germany had surrendered, but its ally, Japan, hadn't. Its leaders had publicly vowed to keep fighting and were preparing to defend against a US invasion. But the US had its own plans to end the war. In July, it had successfully tested the world's first nuclear weapon. It used the energy in atoms, the building blocks of matter, to create an explosion way more powerful than other weapons. On the 6th of August, in the early morning, a US bomber plane named the Enola Gay flew over Hiroshima and dropped a nuclear bomb. The bomb was nicknamed Little Boy, but its impact was enormous.
One bomb exploding 1,500 feet above the target.
The explosion created a powerful shockwave that travelled outwards, destroying most of the city and killing around 70,000 people instantly. Many that survived the initial blast died within the following days. 3 days later, the US dropped a second bomb on the town of Nagasaki, killing tens of thousands more. Soon after, Japan surrendered, and the Second World War came to an end. But for Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the devastation would continue. You see, atomic bombs release radiation, which is a type of energy that can damage living cells. The radiation can contaminate the environment and stay dangerous for years. In the years that followed, many countries continued to build and test nuclear weapons, and the fear that they'd be used again had a huge impact on the world.
Eliminating nuclear weapons is the only guarantee they will never be used.
Now, most of the world has agreed to stop making and testing nuclear weapons, although they still exist. Which is why people like Shun say it's really important to remember what happened in Hiroshima.
The most dangerous thing is to forget what happened a long time ago. So I think we should pass the story to the next generation and then never forget it ever again.
The US-led program to develop and test the world's first nuclear weapon was known as what? The Manhattan Project, the Chicago Convention, or the Oppenheimer Operation? It was the Manhattan Project, and it involved more than 130,000 people, many of whom lived in heavily guarded secret cities. Now, if you ever spend time chatting with AI, you might have found that it's getting pretty, well, human-like. In fact, a growing number of people are turning to chatbots for friendship. Here's Ren with more.
Okay, you're never going to believe this. Basically, when I went into work,
We all have parts of ourselves we reserve for our best friend.
Okay, I'm tossing up what to wear. I don't know, do you think the pink? The flower?
That person who knows us better than anyone. And always has our back.
That's lovely. Thank you. I would say I like the pink too, actually. Okay, so I'm here at the cafe, and look how good this looks.
But what if that person wasn't real?
I know, right?
Ren, who are you talking to?
Bob.
Is that a chatbot?
Yeah, he gets me. Anyway, so as I was saying, I'm so excited to eat this. Just look.
Hello. I am Baymax.
It wasn't that long ago that having an artificial best friend was science fiction.
Hi, Frank.
But now, an increasing number of real-life humans are palling up with not-so-real humans.
I understand why people in Japan fall in love with robots.
Yeah, I've definitely used some.
Probably for schoolwork.
When my friends would get mad at each other, sometimes we'd use chatbots and then talk how do I de-escalate the conflict.
My AI, it uses emojis, it uses sort of Gen Z slang as well. It's talking to you like a friend would talk to you.
There are also companies that have come up with chatbots specifically for friendships. You can even choose to talk to famous fictional characters or AI versions of real-life celebrities. Recently, a study from the US found that 72% of teenagers surveyed had used AI companions before, and that 52% used them regularly. But here's the kicker. 1/3 of teens said they would actually choose AI instead of real-life humans for serious conversations.
And that's a somewhat worrying statistic, but you can understand, though, that teens feel judged by adults all the time, and here's a machine that isn't possibly going to be judging you.
Toby says a lot of people turn to chatbots because, unlike humans, they never get bored of hearing us speak, and they don't expect anything in return. They can also give us answers to complex questions quickly, and they're nice.
Thank you, Ren. I really enjoy our chats.
But according to Toby, these are the exact reasons why chatbots are a bit worrying.
They've been designed explicitly not to confront us, to agree, to be very pleasant. And that's not like human relationships. We need for people to push back.
Some experts worry that if young people come to rely on AI friendships, they may lose the skills to make friends in real life. There are also some concerns that people are sharing sensitive info with chatbots that could end up in the wrong hands.
So you need to be very careful about the data you share with these chatbots, because it may end up in places that you wouldn't want it to.
Anyway, I guess I was going to say what's going on with you, but I just don't think that.
And if you, like me, find yourself chatting to your imaginary friends online too much, well, Toby has some advice.
Ren, please, go and touch some grass. Feel the sun on your face and the breeze in your hair.
Use it a little bit, if you don't know the meanings.
Don't always talk to the chatbots about every problem that you have.
So if it's a serious problem, you should probably go to an adult or someone that you can trust rather than AI.
Spend a good time that you have with your friends.
The World Swimming Championships in Singapore have wrapped up. Australia finished second behind the United States, bringing home 8 gold, 6 silver, and 6 bronze medals. Molly O'Callaghan bagged 3 of those golds, and over her career has now equaled Ian Thorpe's record of 11 World Championship gold medals, the most by an Australian. Speaking of wins, remember Penny?
It's Penelope!
The 11-year-old BMX racer who told us she was going to the World Championships? Well, she's now a world champ. Penny went against 77 girls from around the world in Copenhagen, Denmark, and came out on top, winning by just 1.3 seconds.
It was amazing to be the world champion because as soon as I crossed the line, it felt like a dream come true.
Finally today, we're going to meet 15-year-old Abby, who's on a mission to fight homophobia in schools. Check it out.
My name's Abby. I'm 15 years old and I founded the Rainbow Shoelace Project. I started the project when I was just 12 years old, living in Broken Hill where there's no way to kind of reach out to other people. Starting high school, I heard a lot of generalized homophobic language. I felt really alone and isolated being a young queer person, and I wanted to create a way that people could identify safe people to go to. The simplicity of the idea. It's simply rainbow beads being threaded onto shoelaces. You normally see rainbows when you're looking up in the sky, and when you're experiencing homophobia and bullying, you tend to look down and hide yourself from the world. And just by someone looking down and seeing your shoes with rainbow beads on them, it can literally change their life. It starts a conversation, it normalizes kindness, and it makes people feel so incredibly seen. We've given away over 350,000 packs of beads since March of 2022, which is an insane number.
Such a tiny thing can spread really far.
It makes me so happy seeing them in the wild. Like, that's what we call seeing them in the wild. Just seeing a random person with them on it, I'm just like, oh, yay, oh my God. We've given beads all around the world to, I think, over 6 different countries, which is amazing. The reach has been bigger than I could have ever imagined.
Finished shoes, what do you think?
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's gorgeous.
They're very cute, aren't
I'm
they?
really proud to wear that.
Surrey Hills on the Rainbow Crossing. About a year after the project had started, a children's book author, Claire Thompson, reached out to me after seeing my story online, and she offered to co-write a book about my story. The book is called Abby's True Colours, and it is my true story of how I went from looking down and hiding myself to, spreading kindness and rainbows everywhere I went.
They are all brave, just like you.
And the winner of the 2024 Young Achiever Award is Abby J.
How has your life changed since launching this project? Because I know you've won a lot of awards as well.
Running a worldwide project and balancing things like school and friendships, it's actually really difficult, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
I can't wait to see the cover.
It makes me really happy to see that people with a big platform, people with big names are supporting not only a young person, but also supporting a young queer person.
Well, what's next for Abby? What should we look out for with Abby?
I was reached out to by Lego Group Australia to be a part of a campaign called She Built That, to show girls that they can be brave and build whatever they want to. My goal is to spread the Rainbow Shoelace Project into as many schools as possible so less and less kids start to feel alone. I hope that I can inspire other young people to step up and to let them know that no matter who you are, no matter how old you are, no matter where you're from, you can make such a big difference.
Well, that's all we've got for you this week, but we'll be back next week with more. In the meantime, you can catch Newsbreak every weeknight right here in the studio. And there's BTN High for all you high schoolers out there. Have an awesome week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.